Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and you know Andy's here.
Bright and early, bushy tail,
right.
baby.
I love recording in the morning, Andy.
I know, it feels like an actual job.
It does. Well, I got up and got at it today.
Got in, got up, clocked in, got my coffee.
That's right. And we are talking about an axe murder today. So, what a great way to start your day. But it's an old one. It's old. It's even older than Lizzie Borden.
Ooh, I mean, people don't use axes as much anymore.
Not as much.
So
no.
They're
Not since New
typically-
Orleans.
They're typically older crimes.
Yeah, typically. But guys, before we get into it, I got to remind you that you can catch these episodes early and ad-free on Patreon. Also with some bonus content. I think me and Andy talked about 20-something minutes before this episode. So you can catch that at the end of this episode if you're listening on Patreon, as always. Again, that's patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Also, you can check out our other shows here on the free platform like Strange and Unexplained, Cryptic Soup, and Sandu Stories, wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you give those a follow. Make sure you subscribe and leave a review if you can. We appreciate that very much. And you can give us a follow on social media at True Crime Guys, and it's a great place to send case suggestions. Today is one of the first cases in a while that's not a case suggestion. It's just something that I found and I thought was very interesting. And we needed a break after that awful teenage brutal gang murder.
Right,
from
yeah.
last week.
That was just one of those ones
The kid ones, man.
Those are the ones you really do. Like I've talked to my Megan about this before, where it's like, I have to just in one ear out the other.
Yep.
Like after I talk about it with you, I'm just like, what you guys talk
It's
about?
tough.
I'm like, you can listen to the episode.
It seems insensitive, but it's the only way to remain mentally healthy in taking it that often.
Yeah.
But today is a very old case, so we can kind of separate ourselves a little bit. We can try. It's still from our neck of the woods. It still happened in Appalachia. That's what kind of caught my attention, Andy. Probably some of our relatives here. But who knows? Lizzie Andrew Borden, to be more specific, was an American woman acquitted of the axe murders of her father and stepmother in Massachusetts in 1892. But nearly 50 years before, in Overton County, Tennessee, right here in our own Appalachian Mountains, in September of 1846, the true story of Patsey Troxdale took place.
Yeah, and it was a gruesome one at best, too.
And a lot like Lizzie Borden, we still aren't 100% sure, right? I mean, Lizzie was acquitted. Don't forget about that.
True.
Okay? I mean, if OJ didn't do it, Lizzie didn't do it, okay?
Well, yeah.
Wait a minute. But anyways.
If the axe don't fit, she gets acquitted? I don't know.
But this story, like I said, takes place. I was shocked before because when I first started looking at this, I'm like, oh, she took some inspiration from old Lizzie, right? You know, she must have heard about it, or I'm sure it was nationwide news, much like this story was at the time. But it is a gruesome axe murder. It does involve violence towards children again, but from a different time. Let that comfort you, I guess.
Yeah, a little distance.
A little distance. But let's close that distance and play the intro and let's get into it, Andy.
Right you are.
Hey Patsy, why'd you do him like that? Hey Patsy, why'd you do him like that? You know you could've worked it out with your dad. Maybe take a little time away before you pay the tab. Hey Patsy, have you done gone mad? Hey Patsy, have you done gone mad? Cutting down the only family you had. Like a log for the fire or some fine fescue grass. She said, that son of a bitch had it coming. I swear it was him or me. They called her a witch, sly and cunning, a whore with no dignity. Witch's witch, the blood is running. She laid to waste her kin over and over again. Hey, Patsy got away scot-free. She got her ass out of Tennessee, but now she had a hell of a secret to keep. Like a parasite inside of you, it eats and eats. That son of a bitch had it coming. I swear it was him or me. They called her a witch, sly and cunning, a whore with no dignity.
All right, so like we said, we're going all the way back to 1848. And that year had been a pretty good year for a man named Edward O'Neill and his family on their little hillside farm. So much so that Ed really couldn't hide his optimism. There'd be plenty to eat this winter, and all of his youngins would get a new pair of shoes, maybe some new clothes, maybe even the wife, Andy.
Right?
Right? We might splurge a little bit. Maybe she gets a new pair of dancing shoes. Who knows?
When we first read this timeline, I did laugh. I was just like, oh, Ed O'Neill, married with children, have a good life? I was like, wow, I think I've seen this story before.
I've heard this.
Where was this?
But Ed and Sarah had been married for over 20 years and were raising 6 children. Now, most folks don't admit, to having a favorite child.
At least not publicly.
Not publicly. But Ed wasn't this type of guy. He let his feelings be known that his 12-year-old son Jackson was his favorite. He was the oldest boy.
This is the Johnny Cash story. It's like the wrong kid died.
Yeah. That's God. That line is just heartbreaking.
I know, but that's really
Jesus
this.
Christ.
That really is this Ed O'Neill.
That's the type of thing from your parents that just sticks in the back of your mind forever, right? You just hear that fucking flashback all this. Every mistake you make, the wrong kid died.
It's like
that's dark.
This is my son Jackson, and these are my other kids. Anyway,
his siblings. Jackson, introduce your siblings if you want. But Jackson, like I said, he wasn't the oldest. That title went to 16-year-old Patsey.
A girl back then.
Now, right. Oh, what? They just completely ignored her. Now, some versions of the story will say that Patsey was 18 at the time. And I don't know if that would put Jackson at 14 or if he was 12 and she was really 18. One thing's for sure, Patsey was living life like an 18-year-old, for sure.
I mean, back then, they didn't really keep track of women's ages. They were just like, are you old enough to be married? We think so.
We think you should be.
We think you should get married.
And now Patsey's role in the family, it was a bit complicated, okay? Mostly because, like Andy alluded to, girls weren't thought to be of much value in those days at all. And there wasn't any use to sending them to school since, what are they going to do? Have babies, So they need to be home raising babies anyways. What do they need an education for, Andy?
You can learn all those skills from your mother.
Yeah, and surprisingly, Patsey wasn't in line with this. She didn't feel for this thinking.
Shockingly rebellious.
Yeah. But she worked hard on the farm, probably harder than anyone else as far as at the homestead. Mm-hmm. Okay, every morning she was in charge with getting all her younger siblings up, getting them fed, and getting them ready for school or working in the fields or whatever they had to do. And then when the workday was over, she would cook dinner and she would help put her siblings to bed. I don't know what Mama's doing. I guess she's working the field. Because they do have a good-sized farm. Like, they're completely self-sustainable. There's plenty of shit to do without tending to the kids.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Sure, but still.
So
yeah, it's like she still is the eldest child on like a homestead farm. Like, the eldest child's going to have a lot of fucking responsibilities, male or female.
No doubt. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, young Jackson was working too. A lot of times he would go to work with his dad, even at 12. Like, he's doing full man responsibilities. His dad was a logger.
At 12 years old, 1848, you are a man. What are you talking about?
Exactly. took you long enough.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Seriously.
Come on, have a drink.
But for some reason, Patsey hadn't taken up a husband, Andy, and Daddy Ed really did not like that. In fact, he reminded Patsey all the time how much he didn't like it. And he thought that the cabin was getting a little small for the family of 8, right? Especially when Ed would get drunk and start throwing his weight around.
Yeah, I mean, 18, fucking spinster. Jeez,
Right? Yeah.
God. You ever going to get married?
Yeah.
At the most 18, 16 probably.
And they would argue a lot, like Ed and Patsey. Like, this was really coming to a head, especially when he would get drunk. So eventually, Patsey took to sleeping in the barn. She was like, fine, you want me out? I'll just leave. I'll sleep outside. But this really, and this for that time really wasn't unheard of by teenagers or even families with large families with a lot of kids. Sometimes kids would sleep in the barn just because, it was safe. They're out in the middle of nowhere, right? And they're sleeping up in the hayloft. They're not sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, it's still warmer than sleeping outside. They don't
it's warm, but also, it leaves more room for everyone else in the house, right?
Their house can only be so big. It's like,
it's a one-room cabin, Andy.
Yeah, it's like the house is only so big. There's only so much room for beds. We got other space over here.
Exactly. So she took to sleeping in the barn, and no one really thought anything about it. Like I said, she's 16, 18, doesn't really make a difference. She's still got full adult responsibilities. She's fully independent if she wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so, nobody thought this was weird until that September. And it was well known. Now, it was well known that Ed O'Neill, he was a hustler. He was a hard worker. He would do extra jobs, side jobs, trading, whatever he had to do. Okay. And Ed had a little extra time on his hands because the crops had done so well. And so what he decided to do with that, fill it with more work.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? If you're not working, you're dying.
Why can't if you got time to lean, you got time to clean.
That's right. So he took a timber cutting job about 10 miles away in Crossville, Tennessee, where he was commuting back and forth every single day on horseback.
10 miles every day?
10 miles. So he's gone for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. And while he was gone, and honestly, I think Ed was aware of this. He was just in denial. But while he was gone, Patsey had developed a few habits. Yeah, she started having a few visitors at the barn.
Little play dates, so to speak.
Yes, quite a few, Andy. Quite a few. It started happening pretty often. Yeah, she got quite a reputation around town for this sort of thing, if you will.
Harlot.
Yes, she was. And I think it was her way of sticking it to her dad, but probably also making some money on the side, getting what she wanted from certain men here and there.
This teenage rebellion, too. Just absolute.
Yeah.
You're getting shoved around by your kind of drunk, rude dad a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of rebellions coming into play here.
Exactly. So September 18th was a Friday, and that morning started out just like any other day. After breakfast, Ed kissed his wife, hugged his kids, before hopping on the horse, heading out to Crossville. But he was upbeat because today was payday and the weather for the weekend looked good. But back home, there was a bit of trouble brewing, as it usually was when Ed would leave. Two men, William Upton and Nicholas Stevens, had rode over from neighboring Fentress County to see Ed about a previous horse trade that they weren't happy about. Okay? You see, the horse died just days after they purchased it from him.
What do you call that in the horse trade? I know it's a limit in the car business. What's it in the horse business? Is it like a tangerine or something? Like you get like
I'm not really sure.
Get a horse,
a vegetable, just in general. It's like
it's a glue stick. Call it a glue stick.
Oh, a glue stick.
Call it a glue stick.
Wow. So there's multiple versions of this, right? So some versions say that these two men were here because of this, because of the horse. This is the wholesome version. They were here because of the horse trade. Blah blah. We're not happy about it.
At least me a dead horse.
At least that's what they told the police first off, right? And that's kind of the story. And that might be partly true. But also...
if the men did produce said dead horse...
well, they didn't drag it there. They didn't.
Which would have been fucking great.
They showed up on live horses. They didn't have the horse,
Dead horse in a cart.
But either way, they were there because they were regular visitors of Patsey's already.
Okay, so they know their way around a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those times where it's like, hey, Ed, how you doing? Can I use your bathroom? Yeah, it's down the hall. I know. How do you know?
Okay.
I mean,
most of her visitors weren't allowed in the house. Probably none of them.
Probably not.
They, like I said, they were meeting her in the barn after hours, dude. Or during the day when the kids were all busy, mom was busy, whatever. They slip off to the barn or whatever. But either way, these guys thought that this horse was already sick. You sold me a glue stick, whatever. Like, we want our money back. But when the men arrived, obviously that morning, they were too late. Ed was already gone. So Ed's wife, Sarah, said, he'll be back later this evening. You can come back. I'm sure he'll settle this up. Everything will be fine. So the men decide, well, we'll just hang out at the local saloon. Yeah, sure. You probably hung out in the fucking local barn. That's where you hung out. Yeah.
The saloon
we call
around
it the
here.
Saloon. Patsey Saloon, we call it. Yeah, so they hung out. They hung around close. And then the actual events of that Friday evening are still debated to this day, Andy. This is where it gets a little dicey. Mm-hmm. Okay? We got three suspects in this case that all look awful.
That all look awful.
They look awful, and we'll get into it. So what we do know is, by Saturday morning, the entire cabin was burnt to the ground.
Eventful Friday night, to say the least.
Yes. Even more troubling was the fact that the entire O'Neill family had seemingly disappeared and were nowhere to be found. So the men began searching through the rubble when one of the men shouted, "Boys, take a look at this." And as all the men came over, they approached, I guess, what was an entrance to a cellar.
Yeah.
Or something, or what's left of a cellar door, and they began removing the boards from it, and they immediately smelt the burnt flesh. It's just unmistakable smell. And there piled, in a pile, was the entire O'Neill family. Ed's body was on top, with Sarah's under his, and then one by one the children were stacked underneath them. Now, because of the way they were stacked, the children's bodies were nearly untouched by the fire.
Yeah.
Which told us a lot about the case.
Yeah.
The parents were burned beyond recognition and almost beyond any evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But the children's bodies
told the story.
They told the story, and it was clear that they had been bludgeoned with an axe. So in total, 7 bodies were pulled from the pit. And several on the scene believe that Ed must have been responsible, even though he was there. Maybe he killed himself last.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. I mean, God, with an axe, though.
I mean, if they
I can't even.
If they, at the time, well, you have to think at the time, if his body was so badly burned
they don't
and
know.
Destroyed,
Yeah.
they might not have been able to see the axe damage. Like maybe
No, they couldn't.
So
That's
he
facts,
may have So to them, this possibly looks like just a family annihilator who burned his cabin down and took his family out with him.
Exactly. So that was one theory that was floating around very early. Also, there was the theory of Upton and Stevens. Apparently, witnesses around town said Upton and Stevens were talking about getting revenge on Ed. And then some townsfolk said that they seen both of the men on horses leaving the O'Neill farm around the same time the fire was reported.
Okay, now I got some witnesses on the scene. There we go.
Yeah. So things are kind of starting to come together. Like, they noticed that the family is short, right? There's only 7. I thought the O'Neills were a family of 8. The sheriff spoke up. He said, "How many children did Mr. and Mrs. O'Neill have?" And one of the deputies said they had 6. So the sheriff counted the bodies. He said, "One's missing." And they quickly realized it was Patsey.
Mm-hmm.
So the men began to search the property for Patsey. They checked the sheds, they checked the barns. She was nowhere to be found. However, they did find some very interesting things.
Right? Yeah,
in the barn.
There's signs. There's some signs of Patsey.
There were some signs. There, in a stump about 100 feet from the cabin, was a bloody axe with human hair still on it, Andy.
Yep. One of the most gruesome signs you can find.
All right. Since they had really no reason to suspect Patsey right now, they think, just because she's missing doesn't mean she's responsible. But people did see these 2 men, both Upton and Stevens, at the scene, right? So first thing, sheriff's like, let's get those 2 in here for questioning. And right off the bat, both men had alibis, I guess. They're not that great. They both said that they were at home with their wife asleep at the time of the fire. And of course, their wives backed them up.
Yeah, of course they are back.
Of course, they backed them up.
And that's again, at this time, this is before Lizzie Borden. No sheriff is going to immediately presume that a 16-year-old girl did this.
Hell no.
They're immediately mostly going to assume that she's been kidnapped.
Absolutely.
That she's been taken by whoever did this.
Yeah, maybe she was the purpose for killing the whole family and to take her. Mm-hmm. Who knows?
No one's going to suspect Patsey was the one who did this.
Exactly. Now, Upton and Stevens claimed that they both lived over 10 miles away, and it would have been impossible for them to be both at home and, at the cabin at the same time, right? Obviously. But the 2 men were jailed anyway. The sheriff was like, nah, we're going to short this shit out. You just stay right there.
You know what?
Something's not right.
I don't like that. Get in jail.
Because obviously he didn't just buy it. He didn't just take their wife's word for it. Okay. Yeah. So the 2 men were jailed, and the sheriff wanted to interview Patsey. And by Sunday, less than 48 hours after the crime, Patsey came to him. She turned herself in for questioning. She was devastated. She had learned all of the horrible details of her mother and father and siblings' death.
Just shows up out of the blue to start telling the sob story.
Yep. And the sheriff, he didn't really waste a lot of time. He's just like, he wasn't really buying it right now. He said, "Patsey, where were you on Friday?" She says, "I was at home. I spent the morning digging roots on the hillside, and that afternoon I helped Mama with the meal. Paul had gotten paid and bought a jug of whiskey that afternoon, and by the time he got home, the bottle was nearly empty. He was in a foul mood. Mama told him to go sleep it off, but he wouldn't. He was yelling at Mama, and I was scared he was going to hit her. I begged him to stop, and that's when he started in on me. He ran at me and backhanded me so hard it flipped the chair I was sitting in over. I had seen him drunk many times, but this time was different. He grabbed me by my hair and drugged me. I knew he was capable of evil, but I got away and ran about 2 miles to the Thompson place and hid in their barn until the next day." End quote. But the sheriff wasn't really buying this story either, or Upton or Stevens' alibi. But he didn't have any evidence either. So he was like, fuck it, let's just lock them all up.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and
Just
wrap
hold
this up.
everybody. Just hold them.
Yeah, let's
It's
go,
got to be one of these people, though.
Maybe we go talk to these Thompsons. Let's go see if they have any, witnesses. Signs of you in their barn for 2 days.
Right? Seriously. At first, folks, for the most part, believed that Edward O'Neill had committed the crime. However, they decided to search Patsy's living quarters once they found out those were her living quarters. Right? They didn't know Patsy was staying in the barn. Once they realized that, they're like, "Oh, so you were scared of your dad, you were living in the barn. Interesting." So they go search her quarters, and they just happen to find her father's Bible, where he kept his original copy of his land deed.
That's a weird thing for you to have in your
Right.
in your possessions there, Patsy.
It
Okay.
is. It is. And there happened to be a dress with bloodstains on it.
Got to keep that,
Don't forget about that.
Got to keep that for the memories.
So they immediately presented Patsy with this very seemingly damning evidence, right? But she just changed her story. She suggested that if her father didn't do it, it must have been Upton and Stevens then, for sure.
Right?
You know, it had to be them. And
It was those guys. It was those guys. It was definitely them.
She explains the way the dress, saying that she had butchered a chicken for dinner that night.
Okay. I mean, that's...
And then the axe, she has nothing to do with the axe. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What axe? I don't
What
use
axe?
axes for chickens. No. What axe are you
I don't know what you're axing here.
I barehand that shit.
So the stage was set, okay, for a trial of the century, to say the least, in Livingston, Tennessee. Folks traveled far and wide. The courthouse was packed. The prosecution wasted no time. They threw Patsy on the stand, and they questioned her about all this new evidence. In regards to the bloody dress, like I said she had cut up a chicken for her mother the night before, preparing supper. And she stuck to her story about her father being a drunk and enraging every time he did get drunk, and that Stevens and O'Neill had a heated argument in the yard as she was running to a neighbor's house for safety. So she's trying to put Stevens and O'Neill right there and her father at an altercation in the yard right before it burned down.
When she's leaving. At first, it's
Exactly.
first it's just Dad's angry. He's yelling at Mom. He hits me.
He grabbed you by the hair and you got away.
He drags you
now you're
around.
changing it to he wasn't even mad at you when you ran away.
Now he's mad at these two men in the front yard, and that's when the altercation's happening, but you run away because you're scared. Yeah. Okay. Stories.
Yep. And the prosecution called a female witness to the stand who had been jailed with Patsy for the time being. And she claimed that Patsy bragged about killing her entire family as they slept, starting with her father. But like most jailhouse witnesses, I think it helped in this case.
Yeah.
But it was also disproven it was just this person's credit was disproven. It doesn't mean they're lying here. There were just other instances that this other prisoner had been lying, and she was a career criminal. So,
Could be lying. Yeah, she could be lying, or she could have just made this up. Like, she could have just made this up and then later on been like, oh shit, was I right?
Yeah. But the biggest bombshell in the case came when Stevens took the stand. In a stunning turn of events, he admitted that both he and Upton had actually spent most of the night at the farm with Patsy in the barn.
Oh.
Consensually.
If
you catch my drift. Apparently, unknown to her father, Patsy had a reputation for such acts in the community, as we talked about earlier. This all came out. Stevens stated that the men originally lied about their whereabouts to authorities in an effort to keep their scandalous secret from their wives.
Aw.
That makes sense.
Touching.
Upton then added that after midnight, both he and Stevens mounted their horses and left, having nothing to do with the crime. Everything to do with Patsy, but nothing to do with the crime.
Well, listen, we weren't there murdering. We were there. We were definitely banging that guy's daughter, but we didn't murder nobody. We didn't murder nobody. Okay.
So the case was now in the hands of the jury, and it really didn't take long for them to come with a verdict. And they said, in the case of Patsey Troxdale, we, the jury, find her guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. And as far as William Upton and Nicholas Stevens, both guilty of 6 counts of first-degree murder. They're like, fuck it, you're all guilty.
You know what? We don't like any of you.
We don't like any of you.
Fuck all of you.
All 3 defendants were sentenced to death by hanging. And really, that should have been the end of the case, but it wasn't. Because just weeks after the conviction, the defense filed an appeal stating that one of the 12 jurors had publicly stated before the trial that he believed Patsy was guilty. And with that, a new trial was ordered.
The justice system with their little, mishaps and mistrials and red tape, but still,
this is one of the biggest mishaps in history, because the state of Tennessee simply never retried the case again. They just never got around to it. And Troxdale, Patsy, and her 2 lovers walked away really without any punishment.
So yeah, they weren't acquitted to an extent, right?
Yeah.
They were tried, found guilty, and then a mistrial.
They were jailed for a time. They were
a mistrial was deemed or whatever.
Yes, and then they were set free in lieu of a retrial, and then they just never got retried.
I'm surprised they were let loose, because they still should have been on hold for murder.
There's a historian from that area. His name is Dale Welch, and he's kind of tied up a few of these loose ends for us a little bit. So he learned that Patsy was jailed for a time, and while she was being jailed, her house, her labor was being rented out to people, in other households. She would go work for time here, and that's how she would make side money. It's just taking care of households.
That's apparently something they used to do to women back in that time period when they got jailed. It's oh, you're going to prison? Well, you can also go clean a house. So what else are you going to do?
Right.
Literally, that was women's prison. They're okay, you're in prison. Well, you can also cook and clean still, right? So
you mean what I was doing when I was free?
Yeah, you can still go do that, right, during the day. So we'll just be back here for lights out at 7.
Right. Now, this historian, Mr. Welch, he interviewed a man who was in his 90s in the 1990s. Okay. This man was at Patsey Troxdale's deathbed. He claims that Patsy was rolling back and forth saying, I have to tell. And she finally confessed to murdering her parents and her 5 siblings with the help of the boys, as she called them, William Upton and Nicholas Stevens. And see, that's what I'm saying. The way the bodies were stacked, dude, she didn't do that shit alone.
Down in the cellar like that?
No way a young woman is moving all 5 of those bodies. After slugging them all to death.
And killing them all quietly enough to not wake anybody up and not put up any of a fight.
It's unrealistic. Yeah. It's just for one person.
No, it's very unrealistic. That's what I said. Even when the investigators got there originally, they're there's no way the 16-year-old girl could have done this.
Right.
There's obviously somebody else, or
I think she could have killed him, but it's moving the bodies though. I don't know. It's just, that's a lot.
I feel like it would have been hard for her to kill them all. Because it's if her dad and her mom are sleeping in the same bed and she tries to, she kills one of them with an axe, if she does not kill them on the first swing,
I got you. Yep.
The other one's waking up and attacking her. So you kind of have to think that there's got to be other people there to make sure that, nobody gets up, nobody puts up a fight, nobody, they get them all before they can stop them.
No doubt.
So I don't see a 16-year-old, even 18-year-old girl at this time being able to take out her whole family by herself and then drag them to the cellar and then burn the whole house down.
I know. It doesn't seem practical.
No.
But yeah, there's a lot of evidence that Patsy and her father were really button heads. I think in the whole family. I think the whole family was a little bit afraid of her, father included. I do, because with this deathbed confession, Patsy also confesses to another murder.
This is the one that
this one's
surprised
crazy.
Me.
This is insane.
It's this is not.
She has no reason to say anything.
Talking about this, Patsy.
That's what gives weight to it.
Yeah.
She has no reason to confess this.
This is just something that was eating away at her.
And she said that she once came upon a small boy in the woods with a bag of ginseng, which was very valuable in the mountains, still is, in the right hands. Had a bag of ginseng that he had dug up. And she, on the spot, killed the boy, took his ginseng, and then fed his body to the hogs.
It's such
why confess to that? It's just so specific too.
It's very specific. It's very matter of fact. It's not because it's one of those things where it's like, she can't really like go back and point to anything, but it's just like, that's just a very specific memory of hers. Like, why would she confess to something that nobody else knew about, that nobody was even asking her about? It's like, yeah, we all knew you were attached to your family's deaths, but you also killed a child, like a random child, for a bag of ginseng?
Right.
Like,
wow.
Shit. I'm going to let your hand go now. Actually, I don't want to help you pass.
Right. Yeah.
You were my friend,
different.
Patsy.
You see him different. Yeah. You have to think, God, she was dark for some time.
That's got to be
She was in a spiral.
On a deathbed confession. Like, you're sitting there, you're like holding your loved one's hand, and you're like, it's okay, Mama. Like, you're going to pass on. All of a sudden, Mama's just like, I killed 7 babies in 1962. You're like,
oh, God.
Okay, I'm going to put that hand down now.
It's time for you to move on.
Can we pull the plug? How do we, can I sign? What do I sign here?
What do I sign? God, I know, right? But yeah, so that's how Patsy passed. She got that off her chest, I guess. As far as the fellas, Uptons and Stevens, we don't really know anything about Uptons. We have no idea. There's no arrest record. There's no retrial. There was no war records. But as far as Nicholas Stevens, he did die in a battle. He was fighting for the Confederacy during the Civil War and was killed.
So, loser.
He didn't have a choice.
Double loser.
He didn't have a choice, I'm sure. But, yeah, so that's the crazy story of Patsey Troxdale, if you will. Now, she's called Patsey Troxdale. I totally glazed over this. But right before the trial, she marries a man named Troxdale. She runs, as soon as she's released or picked up, and she's questioned the first time. Then she dips. She's like, okay, yeah, they're not buying that. So she gets a little further away. She goes to a town over.
She goes all the way to like Kentucky.
Some guy in Troxdale.
Yeah, she goes to like Kentucky or something, gets married, and then they have to like fucking extradite her back.
Yeah, and then they bring her back, right? It's just not important to the story other than the fact that that's how her name becomes Troxdale.
Because she was literally trying to like, well, if I just dip out to another state, I'll just get married and have a new life.
And be fine.
Everything's fine. They're not going to come ask me like, now I'm just a married woman living my life. Like,
also, a married woman on trial looks more respectable. Mm-hmm. Being 18 and not married was kind of weird at that time, you know? So even 16 and not married.
Like I said, how old are you? Old enough to marry. Let's get you out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but yeah, they had to like extradite her back. And this is 1848. Extradition was literally like some marshals on horseback showing up with 6-shooters being like, you coming with us?
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't a lengthy legal process.
No. See, y'all think Lizzie Borden was organized, Jesus Christ, or evil. I mean, I think Lizzie Borden she was just a little off, right? Where I think Patsy was just evil.
I think it's hard to think evil, or if she's just, because it's like she doesn't continue. She does these, like, she confesses to the second crime, but it's like the rest of her life is not, she doesn't confess to more.
Why do you think that is? She finally got what she thought she deserved in life. Maybe
she did settle down. She thought that maybe she did find what
maybe she was one of those. Maybe she was one of those people like Ed Kemper, like, right? Like if Ed Kemper would have started with his mom, I don't think he kills everybody. And Patsy started with her dad, but maybe she'd already killed the boy. She probably already killed the boy. That's probably what gave her the courage. To you know what I'm saying? A lot of times these killers, their first murder happens maybe spontaneously.
Yeah, spur of the moment.
Yeah,
choice.
Because it's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Like Dahmer with the jogger.
Sometimes,
you know what I'm saying? Like
it's an accident.
It's an accident, or it's just a spontaneous decision. Like, oh my God, they're out here, they're vulnerable. Now's the chance.
Like if I don't do this now, I'll never do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the boy was that instance, and then with the family, she thought, I can take everything. Now there was also word that her father was going to kick her off the farm.
Yeah.
Like very soon, within the week. She was basically told, you need to get out. You need to marry. You need to find somebody. You need to get out of here. You don't live here anymore. And she was like, well, I'll be damned, I got the deed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is always one of those just great oxymoron.
It's just the fact that she has the deed, and that was the one thing that you took. It's just so damning.
Why
right?
is your father's Bible with the deed?
It leads so much to that evidence, right? You're
That's
like,
the only thing that was saved from the fire was the land deed. That's in your name or in your father's name, and you're the only surviving.
You're the only. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those kind of double-edged sword things back in those times too, where it's like this father's like, you need to get married off. You need to find yourself a man. You need to get out of here. I'm not tired. I'm tired of taking care of you.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well, I need to go I'm gonna go do that. It's like, hell no, you need to wake up, take care of your siblings, start cooking a meal, go start working in the fields, and then you need to start preparing dinner for later on.
Right.
Well, when am I supposed to go meet a man? You need to meet yourself a man and get him out.
You need to get up out of here.
Man needs to come find you.
Make sure your chores are done by the time I get home. Yeah, it's a crazy oxymoron. It really is. And I'm sure she felt overlooked too, from the time Jackson was born, and he was second.
Yeah.
So not a big gap there. I would say 3 to 4 years max.
Oh yeah, back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as they got married.
I know. I find it hard to believe. I find it hard to believe there's 3 or 4 kids in between, but you got to consider miscarriages, infant deaths. It's a tough time to be alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, you were just popping out staff for that farm back then.
It's not amazing time to be alive like now because we have Oh My Gaia.
Ooh, it's a lot sweeter of a time
It's
now.
a lot sweeter of a time. They didn't even have deodorant probably back then.
That barn was rank.
It was rank. You know it. But if they had some Oh My Gaia, they would have had an innovative all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Mm-hmm. So that would have been great.
That would have been great back then.
Yeah. Guys, there's tons of scents to choose from, like vanilla, cherry, almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle. And there's all kinds of fall scents, too. Like, I think leather is a great fall scent. Leather, lumberjack, fireside. Them are some good ones. Even bergamot amber. It's kind of nice.
Right? Get you a nice sailor.
There you go. Sailor. Hit the seas this fall. But guys, because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the keyword Crimepine. Crimepine, all one word, CRIMEPINE, for 15% off your order at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. Don't forget to tune in every week for the new keyword when we change it. All right, we try to change it every few months or so.
Yeah.
So
keep you on your toes.
Keep you up to date. Keep you on your toes. Again, that's ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. But thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Please, if you get the chance, check out Patreon. Patreon.com/truecrimeguys. You will not be disappointed. There is so much content on there to keep you busy all fall long, all winter. Not to mention we're putting out new episodes every week. So
right.
Yeah, you got that as well. But guys, don't forget, like I said, there's a link to Patreon right below, a link to our sponsors, Oh My Gaia, a link to truecrimeguys.com where you can get your own custom 12-inch vinyl album compiled of, how many is it? 16 of our intro songs on, like I said, on a 12-inch pressed vinyl. Very nice. Limited edition. You guys can get that at truecrimeguys.com. Okay, and you can also check out everything else. You can check us out on YouTube. These episodes do go live on YouTube. And we got some older videos up there in person. We were recording a few cases. But yeah, guys, check us out. Social media at True Crime Guys, YouTube, whatever, wherever you are. Send case suggestions to truecrimeguys@gmail.com. All right, easy to remember. All right, guys, well, we'll see you next week. I think with one more True Crime Guys case, and then the week after will be old headlines again.
I think it will.
Sneaks up on us. All right, guys, until then, just keep on creeping.
Bye.